This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, we now bring you a discussion on India-Turkey bilateral relations. The participants are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, journalist.
Ambassador Sajjanhar, what do you think President Erdogan meant when he said that a multilateral role could be envisaged for mediation on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir? This is something he said to a television station days before coming.
I don't think this move is going to fly, because I think before making this statement, President Erdogan should have known, or his advisors should have advised him about India's very strong position on this, very strong position that we want to discuss and resolve the issue of Kashmir bilaterally, and we do not want any third-party intervention. We have told this to the world at large, and even former President of the United States, Barack Obama, even more recently when we had such statements coming out of New York when the US Ambassador to UN, Nikki Haley, had said. That also was put down summarily, and our spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs had very clearly stated that it's a bilateral issue. So in my view, if I can put it this way, this move is both misinformed and misadvised as far as President Erdogan is concerned. Possibly another way of looking at it is that he is trying to find an international role for himself. And in that context, he thought that this would be a good way to begin. But he should realize that the credibility of President Erdogan in India is not very high, because when the whole issue of Kashmir he has always sided with Pakistan. So he cannot project himself as an honest broker, so to say, even if, there were some possibilities. If you would recall that there was also a contact group on Kashmir that was set up in the United Nations several years ago. Yeah. And there was a 3-member group, and Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Pakistan, they were the 3 members of that contact group. So he is, through his own statements, through his own positions, he has projected himself to being very close to Pakistan. So this is a move that will not fly. He should have known about it. Still, he has decided to raise it. So I don't think it is going to lead anywhere. In my view, quite facetious when he talks about, the question that the television channel, the WION TV channel, when they asked him what about the Kurdish problem, and he said, please do not confuse the two and all. Meaning when he's talking, he says that is a terrorist organization. PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, it's a terrorist organization. And that is not the case here. Here, I think we should, the commentator, the interviewer should have told him that there it's an organization. Here we are dealing with a terrorist state. Pakistan is a terrorist state because they are the ones who are supporting all these terrorists, training them, funding them, and sending them within India to carry out all these attacks. So I think this is better judgment should have been used, and this statement, this move should really not have been coming from him.
Beyond the Kashmir issue, the fact that Turkey set up the Heart of Asia, the Istanbul group, and got some amount of regional involvement in the Afghanistan issue, could that be a reason for him to suddenly have set off this balloon, as it were, or was he just being plain trying to be prickly with the Indian leadership, do you think?
He has no reason to be prickly with the Indian leadership. Last time that President Erdogan came here in 2008 when he was the Prime Minister, at that time, Turkey was viewed as middle power, growing economically, and secular democracy, etc. So it has a certain message which it was giving to the world. Today it is after what has happened, a referendum on 16th of April, where he has made the system of governance there presidential. He has really assumed the powers and has become dictatorial, really. He has illusions of once again bringing up the Ottoman Empire, so to say. So, and he is not got out of the coup attempt that was made on the 15th of July last year. So he is a much reduced person, much diminished individual, much diminished leader. Turkey is also a much diminished country today. So I don't think President Erdogan has any reason to be prickly towards India. But as far as the question of Heart of Asia initiative is concerned, well, India is not Afghanistan. He cannot sort of, put that in the same this thing. And having been at the helm of affairs for such a long time, he should have known that the Kashmir issue does not lend itself to 14 or 15 or 18 powers, 18 countries who are members of Heart of Asia getting together and trying to do something about this. And even his statements like that, I know my good friend Nawaz Sharif is keen to sort it out. He should realize that the shots in Pakistan, as far as India are concerned, are dealt with by the army and the ISI, not by Mr. Sharif.
So, but terrorism is something that Turkey has been afflicted with majorly over the past few years. Would this be a common ground that India and Turkey would have? I would assume that the leadership here would largely ignore his comments on Jammu and Kashmir, as the spokesperson for the MEA also did. So would terrorism and intelligence sharing and things like that be something that India and Turkey would be collaborating on in an enhanced way after this particular visit?
I think terrorism has great possibilities and potential for enhanced cooperation, and Turkey has also suffered from terrorism, basically from the PKK, from the Kurdish rebels.
Also Islamic State.
Yes, now Islamic State. After it has started moving against Islamic State, because earlier you would recall even the oil supplies of Islamic State were going through Turkey. But now of late, after it has teamed up with Russia, it has stopped all avenues of cooperation, support to Islamic State. So Islamic State has also started operating their own cells in Turkey and to carry out these terrorist attacks. So yes, I think that is one area, and of course trade and economy is another very important area, because that is the meeting that was organized by the FICCI and ASOCHAM today morning, and that was addressed both by President Erdogan and Prime Minister Modi. So I think that is also an area where there are great possibilities, because Turkish companies like Chinese companies have conducted themselves with great credit wherever they have gone, particularly in area of infrastructure, in roads, in ports, in airports, construction. So I think this is, and when the Prime Minister was speaking on this, he also said that we are making 50 million houses by 2022. So we could use their expertise and their assistance. And although the bilateral trade levels are decent, about $6.4 billion, but they are heavily weighted in favor of India. So that also could be increased very significantly.
When I had a look at what was exported from India, it's very, very basic kinds of things. So the trade, even at 6.4 billion, which sounds impressive, actually very, very rudimentary. What are the kinds of areas you think? I mean, the Prime Minister mentioned energy as being a major area where India and Turkey could collaborate. And the other thing you mentioned was tourism as a potential. What do you think are the major thrust areas that are likely to emerge after this visit?
I think energy definitely would be one. Tourism definitely would be one, because in tourism, Turkey has done extremely well, and all types of tourism, not only historical, cultural, but also beach, ocean tourism, that sort of thing. It has done extremely well. So I think we could work with them and study with them. But information technology is one area where I think this is a subject that is mentioned by Mr. Erdogan in the article that he has written for the Times of India today morning. So he has mentioned both energy, renewable energy, and information technology, because I think in that definitely India is a world leader. And I'm sure in areas like pharmaceuticals, because we are in terms of export of generic medicines, we have been doing extremely well. So that would be, and textiles and fabrics and automotive components. And what he himself has also mentioned, that in the area of Make in India and smart cities, Turkey could help India to develop its own manufacturing capacity and manufacturing capabilities. So I think there are a number of fields which present themselves in which both of us can cooperate. There can be joint ventures. We can manufacture to produce for third markets. So I think there are a large number of areas where we could really work together.
And regional filmmaking apparently is another area of likely cooperation because both countries are very strong on the cinematic front. Nuclear energy could perhaps also be an additional area of cooperation. Turkey has been one of the countries that has supported India for the NSG membership, also Pakistan, but nevertheless. Do you think nuclear cooperation would work, and how would that work?
It really depends upon what Turkey's plans are for nuclear power generation, because India, of course, has its own nuclear capability. In terms of pressurized heavy water reactors, we have about 18 nuclear power plants that are working in India that are of indigenous technology. So, and 340 megawatt, 540 megawatt, these power plants, we can work with Turkey if there is interest on that side. What you said very rightly, that Turkey has been supportive of India's membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group, but this tendency to draw equivalence, to hyphenate the relationship between India and Pakistan, that I am uncomfortable with, because I think the members of NSG will need to decide and determine for themselves as to which country meets the criteria for membership of NSG, rather than, for Mr. Erdogan in his interview, as he mentioned, that India should not object to it, India should have no objection to Pakistan's membership. Of course, India is not a member in it as yet, so India cannot really have any objection to that. The decision will depend upon the other members. And of course the credentials in terms of the track record. And while speaking about the track record of Pakistan, I don't think it is comparable in any way as far as India is concerned, and many countries have made that comment. And I don't think that countries should really be playing politics with as serious a subject as nuclear technology, nuclear material, nuclear proliferation, because the whole issue of terrorism is, there are so many so-called non-state actors that are operating in Pakistan. So if one of them were to get hold of any nuclear device, that could spell catastrophe for the world at large, world in general. But I think otherwise Turkey was supportive of India's membership of the Missile Technology Control Regime. Yes. So that is how we were able to become members very quickly. And I think it will also be useful to remember that China has been trying to become a member of MTCR since 2004, and they have not been able to do so because of their track record again. So I don't think that President Erdogan's statement that it should be both of them should join it together. It's not a political club, so to say, that you take a decision politically. I think the decision has to be taken very much on substantive grounds and on the track record of the different countries. Prime Minister Modi said everything right at this economic summit when he said that I will personally be involved and engaged in expanding cooperation and expanding partnership between the two countries.
India and Turkey had almost lost touch with each other, as it were, after their closeness at the time of Turkey's independence and the whole Khilafat movement and all of that. Is it correct to suggest that this particular visit might be an effort to re-engage each other?
Well, the attempts are definitely being made. As you know, Prime Minister Erdogan had come here in 2008. In 2010, we had the Turkey President Abdullah Gül coming here. Then we had also Vice President Ansari going in 2011, President Pranab Mukherjee going in 2013, and of course Prime Minister Modi and President Erdogan. They have met over the last few years, in 2015 November in Antalya for the G20, at the G20 in Hangzhou last year. So there have been meetings, but I do sincerely hope that this will provide a very significant impulse to the bilateral ties, this current visit of President Erdogan.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Sajjanhar.
You were listening to a discussion on India-Turkey bilateral relations. The participants were Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Niluva Roy Chaudhary, journalist. The program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.